Are you tired of getting in your own way? Frustrated with the biggest mountain you have to climb each day being your own mind? Sick of making commitments that you honestly have not really kept, only because you have psyched your own self out of it? It was a crucial moment in my journey as a visionary and entrepreneur that I had to realize that no one and nothing was actually getting in my way except for myself. And when I came to that realization and was able to process and work through this, I became a much more confident, consistent, and creative individual. So if you're like me and you wanted to finally get over yourself, you're going to want to listen to this past conversation that I had with Dr. Towanna Burrous. She is the founder and leader of the Coach Diversity Institute. She is a master coach and one of the most brilliant women I've ever met in my life. And she breaks this thing down in a way that I think can be very helpful to all us visionaries out there. Enjoy.
Is this a legitimate thing? Is it possible for us to get in our own ways? Like, what does that really look like? And can you put it into words where it sounds kind of cliche the way I'm saying it now, but what does it really look like when you're getting in your own way as far as mentally or any other way?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. I think it's awesome and you're doing great work and I'm so proud of you. So let me tell you, this is common, especially when we don't consider what does it mean to have things that get in your way that you control and that you don't control. Okay. So there are some things that will naturally happen that we have to navigate around or or create a way through. And what happens is that we get fearful of many things, that many variables that get in the way. Some, what would others think if I do this? How, do I have the time? The level of difficulty. Mm-hmm. But as you know, being from the space of coaching, you know that fear is a constant companion and getting in our way has a root of fear. So it is, what are you considering in the moment while you're looking through your goals or whatever it is that you want to accomplish? What is getting in the way has everything to do with your perception of your ability to be able to deliver to the goal.
Yeah, it's your ability, how you feel you are capable of moving forward.
Yeah. And do you allow the self-talk that will tell you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not brave enough, whatever that may be, right? That not now, maybe later, all the things that we tell ourselves, and then all the things that other people tell us that co-sign on what we tell ourselves. So then other people start agreeing with you, and then you say, see, told you. That was, I knew it wasn't the right time, or see, told you, I knew I wasn't smart enough or good enough. But here's the other thing. You can have a number of people around you cheering you on, helping you to stay motivated. But until you come to agreement with yourself, knowing that you can be afraid for a period of time, but how long are you going to allow that fear to keep you from what you want to do? How long are you going to allow it to hold you hostage? Because it literally is. It's literally tying you up and keeping you from believing and assigning your will to the desired outcome. How much will do you have to get this done? If you ask yourself that question, how much will do I have to make this happen? How much faith and belief do I have to make this happen? Once you check yourself on that answer, then you know how comfortable you are or how ready you are. So getting in your own way is a question that you must ask yourself. And coaching, of course, as you know, helps clients to see their level of will that they're willing to assign to any outcome.
So how does someone go about that? Let's say they listening to this episode right now and they don't have a coach yet, even though, of course, they could talk to me. But let's say, okay, how do I find out how much will I have towards something? How do I know? I think I have the will.
Yeah. So some of the basic questions is on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to push through this fear to accomplish the goal? And if you say, oh gosh, 5, it's self-talk. If you want to self-talk your way through it, you can ask yourself, how much time are you going to allow yourself to be in this state of fear before you are able to accomplish the goal? How big is this fear? Is it so big you can't move? Is it so big that you just need time to work through? Or is it so big, that you can literally just kick it out of the way within 48 hours or 12 hours? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's measuring what it is that you want to do. Now, so these are questions you can easily ask yourself. And the thing is that we typically tell ourselves the truth. I am afraid. I'm afraid that I'm not good enough. I'm afraid that now is not the right time. I'm afraid that other people will think I'm selfish or that other people will not like my decision, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever those things are, you must have an honest conversation with yourself so that you're able to process the truth and overcome and work through.
And for the person that knows that, so like they've gone through the first step, they're aware that some type of fear or some type of something mentally is keeping them back, that barrier. They address it and they address, what is my will to get past this? And they determine that. What do you give for the person that's just frustrated with themselves for just remaining stuck for that period of time? Because it's like you have to get over the frustration type of first with yourself.
So that's interesting, because when you have taken too long to make a decision, right, when you have decided that my indecision is actually a decision, my desire to not do anything is stronger than my desire to do something. And the fact that I'm frustrated that I allowed so much time to pass, or that I can look at where I could be or would be if I hadn't wasted so much time. So the frustration comes in because you're regretting, right? So how can you be gentle with yourself and say, you know what? I tell the truth. I did waste too much time. I was afraid for too long. I did allow other people to convince me that this wasn't the right time, though I in my gut, I felt that it was. And so I ignored myself and listened to others. When you are frustrated because of those things, then you must ask yourself the follow-up questions, which is to consider, be gentle with yourself. You didn't have the right information that you have now. You are better than you were before. Mm-hmm. Or you can create new opportunity because you are more self-aware. So again, it's being honest with yourself and being gracious with yourself to say, it's okay. Today is a new day. Let's figure out what the plan is today. And how do I need to surround myself? What do I need and who do I need around me that's going to help motivate me, keep me focused, or keep me accountable so I don't procrastinate or get off track?
Now, I want to get into the concept of something that I learned greatly from you, which is empowering and disempowering beliefs. And that could be a lot of the root of our stagnation or our lack of doing something. How do people go about identifying those things and then reversing them into fuel to move forward?
Right. So I think, one thing that's important to state that there are some disempowering beliefs that serve us.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes I need to be in chaos or feel bad in order for me to have enough energy to say, I'm going to prove people wrong. So I feel bad, but I'm going to prove people wrong. So that's a lot of this disempowering beliefs wrapped up into some motivation. So some people need messiness, some people need chaos, as you know, in order for people to advance forward, because it's almost like an identifier. That craziness is a normal. Your state of mind, believing that you can't or believing that it's not possible. Sometimes you have to have that disempowerment to have awareness or recognition to be empowered. Because when someone says you're not good enough, is that my belief or is it just your belief? Well, if I believe that you think I'm not good enough and I believe that already myself, I have two options. Am I going to listen to the other person or am I going to listen to myself? And how am I willing to push through it? So it's important that empowering belief is letting you know you are good enough, that you can do it, that the situation or circumstance may look a little chaotic or bad or is frustrating. However, there is another opportunity here that you can go around it or you can go through it, right? Some people say go over it. It doesn't matter. Go under it. But the point is that you're not going to allow it to get in your way. So how do you flip it? You first having that self-awareness. Some people don't realize sometimes they are disempowering themselves. Some people believe sometimes it's just chit chat. You're like, oh, well, I've been told that haven't been good enough, and I've believed it my whole life. Well, all of a sudden, then someone reaffirms you or supports you in a way that you've never been supported before. And then you realize, wait a minute, I am talented. I am gifted. Therefore, I can, right? But that's self-awareness. So the way to turn it is become more self-aware, know who you are, know how you speak to yourself, know how you support yourself, know who is in your circles of influence that contribute to the way you think about yourself so that you can change those things if you desire to.
Do you think a lot of those beliefs about ourselves come from, well, I'm assuming that they come from past experiences, because sometimes I hear some people and they literally mean nothing by it. It's not like they are talking down to themselves, but it's so innocent and it's so natural. And sometimes it's the humble card, it's just like, well, I know I'm not that great, but I just want to do this. And it's like, no, stop saying that you're not that great and just move forward with the belief that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Right.
But I feel, I don't know sometimes where that, it's almost like a qualifying belief. Like, if I fail, I'm going to just justify it by putting this negativity out there a little bit. And I just wonder, man, how do we kind of stop doing those qualifying statements of our possible doom or failure?
But what's interesting, Cleavon, is that that we inherit some of our belief systems, right?
Yeah.
Some we create on our own journey of life, but others are handed down to us from family, society, at birth. We kind of grow into a disempowering belief because we're told things and then we believe those things. So you may not be responsible for what you say to yourself or what you heard because it was always told to you. And so a disempowering belief or some type of negative self-talk or limiting self-talk will sometimes say to people, let's say in a community of people who've never made more than middle class or above as far as economic levels, right? So let's say they've always been, at or below poverty level. They don't have a visual. They've never seen anything in their family. No one ever has aspired beyond that current state. And if you don't have that level of influence or visual or anything that's motivating you, someone will tell you at birth, you'll never have the opportunity. You're not going to have this because the systems don't allow, the system this, the system that. So we create this conversation and this narrative that tells us who we are versus challenging the system or challenging the narrative. Right. So we are birthed into an empowering or disempowering belief, or we create it and we enforce it based on experience.
And I'm just trying to think of that narrative is so ingrained into who we are as an individual that, and like most of the time, you don't even realize that you're in it. I'm trying to figure out how you know what's beyond. I guess, I don't know. Is it exposure? Is it?
Well, it starts with the question that sounds similar to this. How true is that what you're saying to yourself? How true is it? And where did that come from? Who told you that? Where did that thought come from? Where did it originate? And how true is it? Because I can think of other people in society or other people in your family who have. So what is it that they said that's different from you, or what did they experience different from you? So it's beginning to process bit by bit, piece by piece, what we tell ourselves. Because you can ask yourself a number of questions, or you can get people who are qualified to help coach you through things. Like, as Cleavon, when you work with your clients, it's important that you first break out those details. Like, let's reassign a new thought process when it comes to that limiting, those limited thoughts, right? It's like if they said you can't do something, give me evidence that you can. Give me evidence that you can. Because so far, the only thing you provided is just words that said you aren't good enough. And I need to know, based on everything I know about you, that I believe that's not true. But do you believe that's not true? Yeah. And if you can provide evidence that it is true, that you're not good enough, then I'll stop asking questions, or I'll leave you alone. So tell me why you're not good enough.
And maybe we could do that to ourselves too. Wow. Like, Why do I think I'm not good enough? What evidence do I have to prove this assumption I'm making of myself?
Right.
Yeah.
Is there some, truthfully, without evidence, you can question that thought pattern. You can.
Yeah.
And you get into a nice conversation with yourself, or you get in a conversation with some friends, and then you go back and forth and realize that, wait, I'm telling myself this for no reason, because of fear. I'm afraid. That's why I say that. I'm afraid that what I really want may not happen. So that means you're not going to try. You're not even going to give it a whack. You know what I mean? It's like, try it at least once. If you don't get it right, doesn't mean you quit. There are too many people that have testimonies and biographies that we read who had those same thoughts at one point in time in their life, and in some ways received some type of awareness, and then they're shifted their paradigm because of that. So there are too many people who have proven that not being good enough or not being something sometimes can be dispelled. That myth can be dispelled.
Yeah. That actually just recently happened to me. It was this week. I was being coached, which is always great. And I was saying these things, and the person was like, well, is that like a fact? Like, cause I was spitting out metrics, and people are listening. I'm putting up quotation in the air. And they were like, is that like true, factual based, or is that an assumption? And I was like, well, I'm assuming that those would be the metrics. And they were like, well, do you have any proof that will act? I was like, no, it's kind of just how I feel. And then as I kept going through it, I was like, yeah, I'm actually making this all up in my head. Like these are not supported numbers. They are not statistically proven, blah, blah, blah. And I realized, wow, I really just need to make the decision for myself and stop making these assumptions of what might possibly happen. Because it's not proven. It's not, I don't have evidence.
You don't have evidence, and you put yourself in a situation where the more you talk it through, the more you help yourself, right? Yeah. But at the same time, you know, the goodness that comes out of what you just said is that you realize that I am comfortable telling myself that reality is possible. I'm comfortable with that because it keeps me from doing anything. It keeps me from walking into fear or being courageous or taking a risk. So sometimes we tell ourselves these things to avoid discomfort because you don't want to try. So when a coach approach like you just went through says, well, is that a fact or is it an assumption? You say, actually, it's an assumption because there's nothing that shows me that it's not possible, right? So are you willing now that you know that it's not a fact? Are you willing now to go at it just to see what happens? And that's where I was saying, how much will do you have within yourself? How much faith and belief do you have within yourself? How much trust do you have within yourself to just go for it and see what happens?
Yeah, it comes right back down to the will. So now that you disproved all that stuff, now it's back to how bad do you want it, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and I want to kind of get into, so I asked these questions to some of my audience, whether it was on Instagram or LinkedIn. And I kind of want to present these questions to you to see what your thoughts. I have my thoughts on it, but I want to see what your thoughts are. And some of these are pretty common ones I've heard before. But one that really stuck out to me from Lincoln, and I asked if I could use his name. He said, overthinking is the way I get in the way of my own success. Processing things too much when it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. What are your thoughts or tools you use to kind of combat overthinking?
Yeah, so that's counting the costs. You're playing all the scenarios out. So if this happens, then that'll happen. That's an outcome. So you're advancing or you're multiplying all the outcomes. So overthinking is making all the assumptions for every possibility. And the more you do that, the more fear you create. So the longer you sit in that state, the more you will talk yourself out of whatever it is you want, because you're creating those scenarios. You're not having dialogue with anyone else that is helping you to process your thoughts in an empowering way. Because if you already have a disempowerment, a belief that's disempowering about the situation, you can multiply the scenarios. You can overthink it so many times and still end up in the same outcome because you're doing it yourself. and no one's challenging you to see it differently. So if you, and again, I process the same way. I multiply the opportunities or the options, and I look at all the scenarios, and then, okay, out of all these things, the one that sounds the best or feels the best is the way I'm going to go. Well, some people don't even do that. Some people just talk themselves through it and they still never take action. And they just continue to use the statement of, I'm still thinking about it, or I'm not sure. And again, there's comfort to telling people, I'm not sure yet. I'm still thinking about it, because it gives you an excuse to not take action.
Yeah. So do you talk to someone else about it that you trust? Do you just not think?
That's one, you always should think. Y'all should always do it. And you should speak to someone outside of yourself, because if it's your habit to constantly process and not take action, then you need someone to break that habit. Because once you get out of that habit or that routine of doing it and doing nothing, having another someone that you trust to share thoughts with you will get you out of that routine. And so you will then begin to say, I processed differently the last time. What did I do successfully before that I can do again this time? Right? Because you can have evidence that, I'm over processing this, but I've done this before in the past, or I'm overthinking this, but I literally know the right answer. And the other thing is, ask yourself, even if it doesn't work, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? And what's something in the middle?
Yeah, that worst case, mid case, best case scenario type thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Another one that popped up more than once was self-doubt. And you kind of touched on that a little bit already when we were talking about the imposing fear that kind of is limiting you. But they were linking the self-doubt to making excuses and lack of motivation. Is there a correlation between those two things, with the self-doubt and then making excuses and the lack of motivation? How would you join the two in solving it?
Yeah. So it was making excuses, right?
Right.
Yeah. So again, when you're making excuses, what you're doing is finding comfort in your indecision.
Right.
So you're just finding a way to help you be comfortable with the decision you decided with. And most often it's doing nothing, because doing nothing is a comfortable normal that you're familiar with. Doing something outside of that will cause you to potentially experience something that could bring you pain. It could cause you to experience something that can bring you joy. And sometimes people aren't willing to take the risk to explore something for a potential happy future, because they're so used to the crazy chaos and the poor normal. The fear of the unknown is better than the state of the known.
Yeah. And I think some of those disempowering beliefs that we said, those assumptions that we make about what our possible success rate could be or how capable we are, it makes it easier to lay an indecision. It makes it more comfortable to just stay where I am. At least, I won't fail, or at least I won't have to come face that fear.
Yeah. I didn't lose money. And I still had the same amount of money in my pocket. But then there's regret sometimes. It's like, I didn't, then I regret that I didn't, because everybody else is winning and I'm not. So there's so many scenarios that we put ourselves in. And again, it all comes down to your fear. How long are you going to allow yourself to stay in this state of indecision? So, and keeping yourself from a future, a possibility. Some people would prefer not to stretch. People like comfort. People like their normal, what they're familiar with. And you can't, you can tell people that, but why not try? But that's when you want to ask, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? And if you can land in the middle, what would that look like?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's one last one that I think is really interesting for you, being a master coach. And this came from Erin. She said, being afraid of reaching out to those who could help me. And you being a coach and me being a coach, like having that, I see that a lot. Like people are afraid to reach out. Maybe they don't want to be judged. I don't know what it is. But that's something hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just it. So I have a community of mentees. And I tell the mentees this all the time. Hey, hit me up. Let me know how I can help be supportive of anything that you have that you got going on. And here's the thing. I can say that 1,000 times, but the number one thing that they say in return is, I I'm not where I need to be. So I'm not calling you because the assumption is I, the mentor or the person of experience, have a high expectation. And so they want to make sure they are good before they call me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not the point of the relationship. The point of the relationship is for you to bring all your good, your bad, and your indifferent to the party, right? Bring it all. And I, without judgment, help you filter through all those things, right? So the not reaching out and not connecting with people that you know that can help you, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
Yeah, that's really the question. Yeah, what do you have to lose from reaching out? Like,
it's just pride. She's gonna think I'm, not good enough. She's gonna think that I'm lazy. She's gonna think. So here's the thing. I know I'm not gonna think that. The point is, can you get that stuff out of your head and get out of your way so you can get what you need?
mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm holding on the other side of a door, I'm holding a bag of money and you don't know I'm holding a bag of money. You may not knock on the door, but if I told you there was a bag of money, you'd knock.
Mm-hmm.
So unknowns, like if I'm scared, why would I, I don't know what's on the other side of the door. I'm scared. I'm not gonna knock on that door. Something might, be on the other side that I don't, that I don't want to meet. Well, that's true. But the point is that you have to be willing to take the risk sometimes. I count the cost and all the other things that come with it. But I think sometimes the idea that we'll be judged or the idea that we're not good enough and all this other stuff, it will always be the thing that get in the way. And so I would submit for that listener to consider that they have nothing to lose by asking for support. Because most often people who have successfully completed things, they don't have judgments about your aspirations. They really don't, because they've been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have so much to show for it that it's to your benefit that you just go, hey, why not? Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I love also asking this question with all my guests. And if you've listened to my show, you've heard this a million times, but I think people enjoy it. And I put it at the beginning, so I'll put it in your bio too when I introduce you. If you had a billboard that was sponsored by you or Coach Diversity or whatever it is, and you had a short message that you would want the whole world to see when they drive by this billboard every day, what would be the message that you would want them to see on the billboard?
Oh my gosh, there's so many messages. Wow. My first default thought was to literally just put one word as a statement that represents who I am. And that's one of my highest values, and that's integrity. So if I had just one billboard, I'd probably just have integrity, because I believe that in my space, the value of integrity speaks volumes to how loyal you are, how committed you are to doing things with quality and excellence and being supportive, to have community, to always be in truth, to know my truth and to help you to support you in your truth without judgment. That's what my billboard would say. If I could only have that one. And then can I answer a second one?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a great question. I would then probably create a second one that kind of says something that's thought-provoking, that still kind of lands or leads to who I am. And that is, wait, that's a good question. Don't ask me questions like that, because I'm thinking about people in a moment. But it's if what I have, if who I am is what I have, and what I have is lost, who am I?
Oh, wait, whoa. You just threw that on me really quick. Wait, say that one more time.
If what I have is who I am, and what I have is lost, who am I?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'm going to try to decipher this on the spot. I'm assuming that has something to do with not wrapping yourself up in what something is, but rather be satisfied with who you already are inside.
That's right. It's your truth. It's who are you when nothing else exists? Like character, right? Character is going to show up when nothing else is around. True character, right? So who you truly are should outshine, outlive, and exist in the absence of anything that you have.
Wow. I love that one. I love both of those, actually. We're just going to have like, you have a lot of money, so you got two billboards on the same boulevard, you know?
That was so hard, but yeah, those are my two billboards.
Awesome. And this is the Build Your Vision podcast. So I always love to ask this because everyone I have on this show is in the process, has already built some of their vision, is also still in the process of continually building their vision. What has been the most rewarding part of you building your vision up to this point in your life so far?
Meeting people like you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you that's my honest truth, because I train change agents. That's my purpose in life, to meet people who are called to something greater than themselves. And I am a facilitator of knowledge to help them to achieve that. And it is my greatest, it is my purpose, and I get so much fulfillment from it. And literally there was nothing else I could do. If I couldn't teach change agents in the world, I'd probably just be miserable. So I see my children as change agents, so I'm a teacher for them. Mm-hmm. But I also see wonderful people that I meet through the work that I do that I believe are called to me, and I'm called to them. So mutually and divinely, we connect. And how I'm able to help you, for me to pour into you, and the return is you literally executing on your calling. And that's the most important thing to me.
That's amazing. And you are incredible at that, and just igniting change agents. Like, anybody that's listening to the show, I mean, I'm going to put your contact information in the show notes, how people get in contact with you, check you out on your website, on Coach Diversity, whatever it is. But man, you got to check out Dr. Towanna Burrous. She is amazing. And if you want to be a change agent in your community, in the world, look her up. She is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I feel like you're going to change. I know for sure that you're going to change lots of people's tomorrow once they hear this episode. And I can't wait to get the feedback from all the knowledge that you just dropped.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the invite. And to all your listeners, I want you guys to be well.
You can have the biggest support group around you that encourages you and feeds you positivity. But if you cannot control and regulate how you speak to yourself, you will eternally be held back. I hope you understand what Dr. Burrous was talking about. Be aware of your self-talk and measure your willpower towards your goal. Maybe you don't want it as bad as you think, and that's okay. I know that's happened to me a couple times. I had a couple of careers that I thought I was going to go big in, and then I realized it's not as important to me as I thought it was. Remember, you always have time to forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself is crucial. And as you move forward, identify whether your self-talk is fuel, because sometimes those disempowering beliefs can be fuel for you in your drive. Or is it a fence holding you back? Lastly, ask yourself if your self-talk is factual or an assumption. Do you have hard evidence? You know, the best way to work through negative or uncertain self-talk is by having a conversation with a trustworthy and knowledgeable person. That could be a good friend, a colleague, or a coach like myself. And I'm not just saying this, like it really does work. Like I said in the show, I had an aha moment when I discussed my thoughts with my coach. My coach asked me the right questions and I answered my own problem. But all I needed was a nudge in the right direction. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave it a rating and review in iTunes, but I will talk to you next week. Until then, as always, keep building your vision every single day.